Alessandro. Alessandro is actually the CEO of Thomas Cook China. Okay, I hope I got that right. Is it the CEO?
That's right.
That's right. Okay, so basically, I think one of the things that we're going to be talking about is to try to understand a little bit more about Alessandro's journey in China and how he's actually managed to grow Thomas Cook China by 10 times in the last 12 months or so. And I think that would be something of great interest to me and also to the audience as well. All right? My name is Alan Tan. I'm actually from Ying Fin Partners. We are a marketing, social, and PR agency that helps a lot of companies in Singapore and in Asia reach to B2B audiences. And that's what we do in Singapore. And we are now actually also moving into a lot of travel tech related industries. And I hope that through this discussion, some of those points will actually be highlighted as well. Okay, so let's start off by talking about China. Okay, this incredible phenomenon that's China. In 2010, in the year 2000, they were saying that basically there were a total of 10 million Chinese outbound tourists. Today, just last year in 2017, that number had risen to about like 145 million, an incredible growth of 1,000%. So, Alessandro, based on your experience in China, what do you see are the factors that have been driving this incredible growth in the country?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, China is already the largest and fastest growing travel market in the world. And clearly the opening up of the China economy and the rise of disposable income has driven that growth.
Right.
We actually see and we believe that that growth will continue and it will accelerate. We expect double-digit growth for the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
Various factors that contribute, I'll probably mention a couple. There are more holidays for Chinese, and the government is actually encouraging people to take more holidays by adding public holidays. So there's lots of weekends now where Chinese travelers can take long weekend breaks.
Right.
We weren't there before. And if you look at China maybe 5-10 years ago, it was all work. And now actually is more work, but then enjoy life.
Right.
And leisure activity like travel become very prevalent. And then there are other things like relaxation of visa policies. Visa is one of the major pain points for Chinese travelers.
Okay.
A lot of destinations have opened up visa and taken out visa requirements, and that's driven much more volumes in this destination.
Okay.
So factors like this, we believe, will continue to drive and feed this this amazing growth of the Chinese travel market.
Right. Well, that's fantastic to know. So, paint a picture for us, because Thomas Cook has predominantly been strong in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you say if you were to paint a picture for us for the typical groups of Chinese tourists? How would you say they are different, say, from a typical European tourist?
Yeah. Look, there's a risk of generalizing.
Sure.
So what I can say is how our customers in China differ from our customers in Europe. And I think one of the major differences is the aim and the objective of our European travelers is very much around relaxation.
Right.
And sun and beach. The typical European travelers' holidays in the summer, 2 weeks in a nice resort by the beach, immersing yourself in a book and really relax. That's not how Chinese travelers see holidays and see traveling.
Right.
They're much more interested in experiences, activities. They want to be near things that happens, shops and activities. I'll give you an example. I always give you this example. Some of you may know Phuket well, which is a great tourist destination. There's a place called Khao Lak, which is a bit further away from the airport. Great destination for our European customers. We have 2 hotels there, work very well. is beautiful beach, very calm and very relaxing.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't work with our Chinese travelers.
Right.
They want to be near Patong, where all the activities happen, with their shops, street food, and things like that. So we have 2 other hotels in Bantao and Kamala, which we provide a shuttle service, which is 5-10 minutes to Patong. And those 2 hotels have been extremely successful for us. So we learn, and there are differences, and we need to cater for these differences.
Are the Chinese tourists predominantly traveling in a group travel, or are they more moving towards independent travel?
Look, I think everyone, I've seen Chinese traveling in big groups. I think mass groups traveling for China is no longer the norm.
Right.
The individual way of traveling is much more prevalent, is growing much faster, and the demand is shifting towards a much more personalized and local experiences.
Right, right.
So we see that type of traveling decreasing, and we definitely see this shift. And this opens up opportunity for newcomers like Thomas Cook, because the industry and the existing players are not always so prepared to keep up with the change in travelers' behavior.
Right, okay. So, when we look at the top destinations of Chinese outbound tourists, I think in 2017, apart from Hong Kong and Macau, you would have countries like Taiwan, Thailand, you've mentioned Phuket, of course, Japan, Vietnam, South Korea, and surprisingly Singapore. Singapore is actually in the top 7 of destinations for Chinese travelers, even above the US. If you were to try to forecast, or if you have seen the shifts, what do you think are going to be the popular destinations coming up for Chinese tourists in the next couple of years?
Well, I think for us, what we've seen is, I will mention the extraordinary story of Japan.
Right.
Japan has seen a huge growth in incoming tourism from China. And Japan is one of those destinations that offers so much. You have winter sports, cultural experiences, natural scenery, food and shopping. So there's lots of different things and lots of different activities or type of holidays that can be done by Chinese. And we see, especially from East China, which is much closer geographically to Japan, you have people and consumers in China that travel to Japan even 2, 3, 4 times a year. So that's a huge destination, and I really see the growth to continue in the future for Japan. But then I think Southeast Asia will continue to be extremely important, especially when it comes to sun and beach. That's what the Chinese travelers have in mind.
Right.
So Thailand will always be a key destination, Singapore the same. But I think where we'll see most of the growth will be in destinations far and beyond Asia.
Right.
We see, for example, Turkey has been one of the greatest success. Turkey has introduced a visa-free policy for China and has become our #1 destination for the tour itinerary type of experiences. And we're looking at new destinations as well, which we believe will see growth in the future. We're looking at Eastern Europe, for example, and South Africa. I think Chinese are venturing out to all destinations around the world, far and beyond Asia already today.
Okay. Because we've actually read stories in papers, for instance, that when the Chinese actually go to a destination, they are not going in the 10s or the 20s. They are going in the thousands, even in one group. Like, for example, we saw stories about how they went to Paris and they turned the entire city of Paris into basically a Chinatown in that sense.
Yeah.
So how does actually Thomas Cook, do you first of all cater to those sides of groups?
We don't.
You don't?
We very much focus on the FIT traveling, small group, more curated experiences.
Right.
We do not want to operate in the mass group travel. We don't see a lot of potential opportunities for us in that market, and we see that market declining over time.
Okay, I see. Well, do you have any concerns, let's say, for example, with the Chinese market, of basically destinations being a bit over-dependent on the Chinese tourist market?
Destinations, China is something that any destination around the world can no longer ignore.
Right.
And they all need to adapt for the new rise of Chinese travelers. That's something that it's a matter of fact, and destinations need to adapt. I think the concern is around different type of tourism, and there's a lots of discussions in the China travel industry about this type of tour called shopping tours.
Right.
Where maybe travel operators will get some form of commissions through shoppings, and that's how they subsidize some of the traveling. Right. I think that type of travel is not helpful and beneficial to anyone. It's not helpful for customers. Customers that have that type of experience will not like it and probably will not do it again. And destinations, for the destination, doesn't bring very much, because it's the type of tourism that it is not, also in terms of economic impact, doesn't have that great impact. So, for example, we've seen in Thailand a big crackdown on this type of activities.
Exactly.
And that's really meant that individual traveling has flourished. And yes, you may have a dip in a number of volumes, but the quality of traffic is much better.
Much better.
So that benefits the destination as well.
Okay. So I think I want to move on to a related topic that I think is close to the hearts of a lot of people here. How has Thomas Cook grown its business tenfold in China over 12 months? Granted, it's an exciting, growing country, but I think a lot of people have tried and failed, right?
Yeah.
What's your secret?
Well, I think I'll mention two things. One is we believe we found the right partner.
Right.
So a company like Thomas Cook could not ignore China as a rising power in tourism.
That'll be Fosun, is it?
Fosun.
Fosun.
Yeah, right. Fosun, which is the biggest private conglomerate in China. They've invested in tourism company. They own Club Med, and they've recently developed the Atlantis, the only third Atlantis resort in China. So a big focus on tourism. And they helped a great deal in terms of opening doors and helping with the licenses and really build solid foundations. And then I think what we had is the advantage of more than 100 years history, and also learning from the mistakes, or recreating a Thomas Cook in the modern age.
Right.
So we had this fantastic brand and all this learning. And we have set up the business as a fully digital business. We have brought the latest technology, and we've built the latest technology. We've built a scalable business model. And alliances is another factor that has really given us the opportunity to grow and scale up very quickly. Alliances with online distributors like Alibaba.
Right.
And alliances with suppliers, for example, airline suppliers across different airlines, which we buy capacity from. So this combination of a scalable business model, alliances, and a strong partner has enabled this growth, which has been great and fantastic this year, I would say, yes.
So I want to touch on the point that you raised about digital. What are the type of digital initiatives or platforms you've actually utilized to try to reach the market in China? Obviously, it's worked. Yeah.
So China is a market where any travel brand, but any Western brand, you cannot go to China and think, I'm just going to establish and build a website and start driving traffic. That doesn't work like that, because China, you have these giants like WeChat and Alibaba that drives an enormous amount of traffic. Alibaba ecosystem, I think they make up about 60-70% of the entire traffic.
Right.
So to think that you can just build your own website and do the same thing that you're doing in Europe, it doesn't work. So that's where we had to leverage the existing structures, the existing platforms there. So we have a team that look after our store in Alibaba. We've been, I believe, good at leveraging that marketplace. It helps us to build brand awareness, as well as having quick access to distribution at a relatively low acquisition cost, because it's a huge customer base. And Alibaba travel platform, which is now called Fliggy, is also now moving towards a kind of what they call a key account model, which means that they want international brands like Thomas Cook on their platform to upgrade and to increase the reputation of the platform as the platform to go to for travel experiences. So that really helped us as well. So it's a really good partnership with matching objectives, and we are tour operating and they're just a pure retail platform. So there's no conflict of interest. It's a very good model that we've been able to use to grow the business in China.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know that there are competitors, and there's an especially big one in China. We shall call it the company that shall not be named. But essentially, how would Thomas Cook differentiate itself from the Voldemort of that industry?
I think if you look at the large OTAs in China, they have very sophisticated platforms, and a very slick and convenient type of booking journey. But they're quite transactional in nature. People go on these OTAs, they'll probably already know what they want, where they want to go, what they want to book. They just want to check the price and just get on with it.
Right. So it's very price sensitive.
Very price sensitive, and very transactional. I think what we're trying to position ourselves as a much more inspirational. So we want customers to come into our channels to learn about destination through innovative contents, videos, etc. And the focus for us is on what we call differentiated product. So curated and unique experiences that we can put our stamp on, and is a Thomas Cook experience. So much less a Me Too product, much more curated experiences through a personalized service. So that's how we differentiate from the larger OTAs today in China.
Okay. Right. I mean, that is fascinating. I think you shared a lot of important points about what to do and what not to do in China, and how you're actually putting yourself ahead of some of the competitors, like those that shall not be mentioned. At this point in time, I'm just wondering, from the participants in the audience, do you have any questions that you would like to ask of Alessandro? Yeah, anything to do with potentially, wanting to enter China? Any questions that you might have regarding things that you need to do or things that you shouldn't do in China? Sure, KJ? KJ, can I get a mic over to the lady in front? Thank you.
Hello, I'm from Russia, and some countries, including Russia, are implementing China-friendly program. Are you aware of this program, and is it really effective?
They are. I think destinations that are adapting their product to Chinese customers will see the benefits. I mean, we've had to adapt our products for the Chinese market. I'll give you a couple examples, very simple things like hotels, right? Putting a kettle in the hotel room. It's just a very small change, but that makes the experience of a Chinese customer coming to a hotel much more convenient and happy. Things like hiring Chinese speakers at the concierge, at reception. We have hotels where we provide entertainment, like kids entertainment. Having Chinese speakers in the team makes a huge difference to the experience for Chinese customers. So the more destinations adapt, the more you can introduce Chinese speaking or experiences that Chinese travelers are more familiar with. It will definitely benefit the destination.
Does that help? Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Is there another question? Right at the back over there, KJ?
Hi, my name is Tu, and I run a company called Christina's from Vietnam. And recently we've hired a person to help us focus on addressing the Chinese FIT travelers. What are your recommendations for a company like us operating from Vietnam and trying to connect with the right target of travelers, the FIT travelers that you're mentioning? Is it better to do it via partnership, or is it via online venues, media? What's your recommendation?
Trade secret? No? Not a trick? No. Please, go on.
Look, I think one way that we found is an effective way to promote new destinations and new product is social media. China's social media is an incredible phenomenon. Chinese consumers spend 40% more time on social media than any other countries in the world. They have typically more than 2 or 3 accounts in social media. And they share an enormous amount of information. If you can get the right angle around using, for example, right KOLs, key opinion leaders, that can be a cost-effective way to have a huge exposure. There is a little bit of a trial and error. Not every campaigns on social media can be successful, but can be a very cost-effective way to promote your product and services.
Yeah. Well, if it helps, is there an example of a recent campaign that you've run that seems to strike a chord with the Chinese audience?
We've run a campaign last year called CEO, which wasn't to replace me, but it was a stand for Chief Experience Officer. So we did almost like a hiring program, a recruitment exercise to recruit Chinese consumers to work for us to test new destination and new experience.
Fantastic.
We launched it over social media, had a great success, a lot of applications, and we selected 3 winners, including 1 KOL, so 1 kind of celebrity, and we took the winners to test different of our products. 1 was Morocco, 1 was Turkey, and that's had a huge success in terms of brand awareness. Okay. So that was a good example.
You heard it here first, so I hope that helps. Maybe we'll take 1 more question if there's any more questions from the floor. Any question at all? No? Okay, well, I think Alessandro will be around at the end of this session as well. So he can probably spend a bit of time talking to you, probably not too much time because he has other things going on as well. But maybe I'll just end off this session by asking, you mentioned rightly that, the being dependent on the Chinese market requires you to actually adapt your product to make sure that it appeals to Chinese tastes. However, there is always that risk that when policies or announcements come out from the Chinese government, things can change very quickly. I think an example I'll give is like in Korea, for instance, when relations between China and Korea became slightly less certain, outbound travel fell by about 40% if I remember those numbers, right?
Yeah.
So, do you have any concerns, if you were to say these are your main concerns that keep you awake at night, what would they be for China?
Look, I mean, that's a concern. We had also an incident in Phuket. I don't know if you read about the boat accident with some tragic deaths of Chinese travel, and that had a huge impact. So, I mean, there are also geopolitical and economic factors, and I think as a travel company, it's very important to keep your portfolio diversified, not to be over-dependent on one destination. And from the destination, we talked about over-dependence on the Chinese market. That's definitely probably not the right strategy. Also because what we found, our Chinese customers, they like to go to places where are more local and maybe less Chinese.
Right.
So if you have hotels, which is just full of Chinese consumers, even the Chinese travelers will not like it, but they do like mixed with other nationalities. So it's important that as a destination or as a destination asset or product, you keep the right balance between different nationalities and different source market, and not being over-reliant on one market. I think that's a learning for everyone in the market.
Okay, that's great to know. So just one final question then. What exciting new things does Thomas Cook have in the pipeline for China? Anything that you're willing to share?
I'll mention one thing, and one thing is hotels. Not many people know, but Thomas Cook Group has a hotel company
Right.
within our group, and we already operate over about 200 hotels under 6 or 7 brands,
Okay.
Thomas Cook brands, either franchised or managed. It is a model that enables Thomas Cook Group to differentiate itself from competition by combining and merging a tour operator and retail with a hotel management and really having the full experience Thomas Cook. We want to replicate that model in China, and we have set up a hotel management unit in China, and we've just announced the very first 2 hotels. One will be near Shanghai and another one in Hunan, which is a tourist destination, and they will be under the Sunwing brand, which is the family resort of Thomas Cook. We believe that model will further differentiate Thomas Cook China from its competition and will enable us to replicate the successful model that we have in China, as well as opening up domestic tourism for us, which is another phenomenal growth story of China.
Fantastic. That's great to know. So, Alessandro, you know, Thomas Cook has been around for about 170 years now. So here's to another 100 years for Thomas Cook, and hopefully in China as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.